These are videos humans were never meant to see. Okay, the video I'm about to show you is from a movie that was made in 1996 called The Long Kiss Goodnight, completely predicting 9/11.
I wanted to talk about some of the terrible things that have been found in children videos on YouTube. Elsagate is a thing that started in like 2016.
Nightmarish facts about your body that you probably shouldn't think about. The water you drink has probably been inside of someone or something else.
Hillary Clinton is one of the most disgusting human beings on the planet.
Very much so.
Always has been, always will be. I want to show who she is.
I'm back, it's boy FITTIE, and today we're taking a look at these compilations together. So make sure to grab your water, your popcorn, whatever you want. If you guys like the video, let's try to get to 500 likes. Remember that Fit 10 to get the 10% discount. Send it to the chat box that you're subscribed and that you want to use the discount. Also subscribe to Healing Stoicism for 1 extra % discount off, which makes 11% in total for any change. So check the link down in the description. Let's hop right in the video.
This was the final photo that they found on Todd Chernick's phone. Face value, it probably doesn't look like much. It's just a blurred kind of dark photo of a school hallway at night. If you look a bit closer to the background on the right, you'll see that something is wrong. To explain a little bit more about who Todd was, he was actually a sophomore at Valley Brook High School. He left his laptop in his locker and he did the thing that you're not supposed to do. He went back into the school after dark. The eerie part is that Todd did go missing. He never came back that night. When police investigate, they look at his most recent upload to his iCloud. The photo was this picture. Why would this be the last photo that Todd ever took on his phone before he went missing? In the background, there is somebody standing in one of the doorways, and we have no idea who this is. To this day, this person has not been identified.
Well, if it's the class after dark or school after dark, I'm guessing it might be janitor, but at the same time, it's like, could it realistically be a janitor though? Because like, why would they just be there after dark for so long?
I wanted to talk about some of the terrible things that have been found in children videos on YouTube. Elsagate is a thing that started in like 2016-ish. YouTube came out with YouTube Kids. YouTube was pushing those creators like that made kid-friendly content so hard because they wanted to get YouTube Kids to be like the #1 way parents show their kids like cartoons and stuff, right? One of the original creators on YouTube Kids one day had 500 million views in 24 hours. RPM is anywhere near the average RPM. If they were getting anywhere between $7 and $15 per 1,000 views, they are making millions of dollars. So what happened because of that, right? These small struggling content creators who have been trying
start posting on the
they
kids.
Started making kids content because it's like, okay, they're just giving away all this money. Let me jump over there and you know, maybe it's not the content I want to make. But then there were a couple of creators that were doing some really awful things. Videos that started off normal. After about 15 to 20 minutes though.
Yeah, that should be scary. I mean, did he say 500,000 or 500 million? He says 500,000 views. That's still pretty good. If he says 500 million views, that's absolutely insane. Like, I hope, like, I gotta go back and check to see what he says, but.
There has been another Llorona sighting. I feel that at this point, she's really just outdoing herself because the amount of sightings that have happened in the past couple months have been insane. Before I show you guys the video, I do want to give you a quick little backstory. This is coming from Romania. The person who sent the video wishes to remain anonymous, so we're gonna call her Mia. Mia was out in the woods with a bunch of her friends. They were having a get-together. They had a campfire going. They had music. They were all just kind of drinking and hanging out. When out of nowhere, they heard what sounded like a woman scream. But this woman was screaming in intense pain. At first, they were confused because they're in the middle of nowhere. So they decided to shut the music off to see if they can still hear it. And they hear it even clearer this time. Everyone kind of looks around trying to figure out where it's coming from, but they can't figure it out. Mia says that they continue to hear this woman screaming for the remaining of the night, but the scream would come from like different directions, almost like she was moving around them. Now I want to show you guys the video. I'm gonna have to blur some of the people's faces for privacy reasons, but you guys can hear her. I don't know about you, but that sounded terrifying. And the fact that they still stayed out there for the remainder of the night is insane to me.
I'm not gonna lie, she is right. That is insane. The fact that they stayed, I'd have been like, nah, bro, let's get up and leave. Honestly, let's just go back to the crib. There's no point in even being out here.
This is a true horrifying story, part 76.
This story took place in Dubai very recently. There's a group of young Emirati guys that contributed money to rent a villa in a community in Dubai. They pretty much wanted to co-rent a house so they can spend time together on the weekends. So they rented this villa. They were playing games, partying, doing wrong things, bringing girls over, you know, stuff like that. On a normal weekend, one of these guys named Ahmed started talking to a local girl recently. After a couple of tries, he finally convinces her to come over. Before she arrived, he tells his friends not to come upstairs as he would be in one of the bedrooms with this girl. When she arrived, he immediately takes her upstairs and locks the bedroom door. In 30 minutes exactly, all the guys downstairs hear drastic screaming coming from upstairs. They see Ahmed running down the stairs, completely naked with no clothes on, scared for his life. They ask him, "What is going on?" He stutters in fear, saying, "Get out of this house, all of you." They thought he was playing some sort of prank until they see the girl run down the stairs, also with no clothes on. She was screaming with a man's voice, telling Ahmed to come back. It wasn't her normal voice. It sounded raspy and very manly. They all run outside, and one of Ahmed's friends takes his pants off and gives it to Ahmed so he can cover up. They start running and knocking on neighbors' doors in panic because calling the police will not help the situation. Maybe because there was something inside the house they didn't want the police to see. There was an Emirati neighbor nearby that allowed them to stay in his home until they figured out a solution. As they explained the story to this neighbor, Ahmed sneaks outside and sees this girl completely dressed up in her clothes, conscious and not knowing what is going on. He yells at her from a distance, saying, "Stay away from me. Don't come any closer. I want nothing to do with you." She cries in pain, not knowing what she did. She asks him, "Why are you standing far from me?" He told her to leave. She cries and begs him to drop her home because she didn't even know where she was. This was a ashiq jinn that possessed this girl, and this jinn did not allow another man to do the dirty with her. If someone wanted to be a hero while these things were happening, something very bad could have happened and lives could have been taken.
This photo has a terrifying backstory. In 1991, Jared Negretti was 12 years old and he was on a Mormon scouting trip in California. The boys were hiking Mount San Gorgonio when all of a sudden Jared disappeared from the group. A huge search and rescue team was deployed, which is kind of hard on this mountain because it's so steep. At first it seemed like a total lost cause. There was no sign of Jared, but then later that night, one of the search and rescuers found his camera in a bush, and on it were a bunch of photos that Jared had taken while he was separated from the group. This was the last photo on that camera. For years, people have been trying to make sense of this photo. Does he look scared in it? There's a flash on it, so maybe it was taken at night. But this was the last thing that was ever found of the boy. He was never seen again after this.
That's actually really scary. I don't really think he looks scared. I was looking at him, I was like, he doesn't look scared. If anything, he looks kind of just like firm, you know what I'm saying? Like stoic, just like, yeah. Whatever happens, happens.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. These pieces of yarn in a first grade classroom are the trajectories of the bullets fired by the Sandy Hook shooter in 2012, who killed 20 children and 6 adults. The reason that the angles are pointing downward is quite disturbing when you think about it. Dutch teenager Gary Slock and his mother Petra posted this photo to Facebook moments before their plane was shot down by Russians, killing all 298 people aboard. At first glance, it looks like this woman is resting peacefully, until you notice that that's a car roof twisted around her like bed sheets. She jumped from the top of the Empire State Building and happened to land in this very graceful, peaceful way. This is the last photo ever taken of 18-year-old Jolie Callan, who after this photo was taken, was shot twice in the head and pushed off of the cliff by her ex-boyfriend. While this may seem like a normal family photo, just below the wife is a rattlesnake about to strike her arm. She was bitten and survived, but the dog died. This photo shows a man and a woman on the 70s game show, The Dating Game. The man in this photo who won the date with the woman is Rodney Alcala, a famous serial killer. Cheryl Bradshaw, the woman, found him extremely creepy and after the camera stopped rolling, refused to go on a date with him, possibly saving her life.
It's weird because like the last guy, like she was probably like, wow, he's an attractive guy. She got a feel for his personality and was like, yeah, nah, I'm not rocking with this.
These are videos humans were never meant to see. Okay, the video I'm about to show you is from a movie that was made in 1996 called The Long Kiss Goodnight, completely predicting 9/11. And it's not like they're predicting it, they're literally saying what's going to happen in 5 years. Because keep in mind, this movie was made in 1996. This video is absolutely mind-blowing, and here it is.
1993, World Trade Center bombing, remember? During the trial, one of the bombers claimed the CIA had advanced knowledge. The diplomat who issued the terrorist visa was CIA. It's not unthinkable they paved the way for the bombing, purely to justify a budget increase.
You're telling me that you're gonna fake some terrorist thing just to get some money out of Congress?
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Hennessy, I have no idea how to fake killing 4,000 people. So we're just gonna have to do it for real. Oh, blame it on the Muslims, naturally. Then I get my funding.
Is that what this is about? Operation Honeymoon.
That was a little bit too close. It said 4,000 people, like 3,800 people died in 9/11. Basically 4,000 people. It's kind of weird because I remember seeing something last night. It was like the government can't really do anything unless they prepare the people for its reality. And I was like, yo, why is there so many things about 9/11? Like there were so many predictions. It's so weird.
So we have 4 news stories from my weekly newsletter where I send out every Monday. Let's talk about this. This Wednesday, the House Committee is going to hear testimony from 3 witnesses. Testimony about UFOs, but it really comes down to if there's any evidence, images, pictures, or physical things that proves their claim. The second story is about the Meadow Man that was spotted on October 17, 1973. What makes this story really interesting is that the person who spotted the Meadow Man wasn't a regular person, it was the police chief. There's a lot of pictures floating around, but this is the one that's still on the internet, still not yet verified. The third story is that there is a source in space that is sending radio blasts towards Earth. In the article, it talks about how this has been happening since 1988 and has been sending these radio blasts every 20 minutes. There's a lot of theories, but it still requires a lot more research from scientists. Alright, so I left the best for last, right here. A resident from Kingsburg, California caught this image on a camera. So in the article, the person who caught this said, I thought it was a shooting star initially, and then I looked closer and it started zigging and zagging. Comment below, which one do you think is the most strangest story?
Nightmarish facts about your body that you probably shouldn't think about. The water you drink has probably been inside of someone or something else. Constipation can make you vomit poop. A teratoma is a rare type of tumor that can grow hair, teeth, bones, intestines, and more. There is a bloody skeleton living inside of you. Bone dust smells like Cool Ranch Doritos. This is what the MRI of a baby looks like. Holy shit. There's a condition known as fatal insomnia, where one day you can't go to sleep, and eventually you die because of this lack of sleep. You know that moment when you're about to fall asleep and suddenly you flinch because you feel like you're falling? This is actually known as a hypnic jerk, and it alerts your body that you're dying, or at least thinks that you're dying. If you decapitate someone, their head will remain conscious for 15 to 20 seconds, which is long enough for them to realize what you did to them. Humans are bioluminescent, meaning that we glow in the dark, but our eyes are just too weak to see it.
That's scary. I feel like the cancer one was a little bit scary. I did not know that cancer tumors could grow teeth and like how does that even happen? That's gotta have some strong regeneration abilities to grow teeth, bones, and like what?
I have another Ouija board story time. I highly suggest you put your AirPods on or headphones, whatever you have. I have no business filming this in my house, but the car was way too hot and I just couldn't bear it. This story was submitted by Maria. I went ahead and tagged her down below. So when Maria was about 12 years old, her and her sister used to play with a homemade Ouija board. Her main purpose of doing this was for her to connect with her grandfather who had passed away. Maria never got to meet him, so she thought what better way to get to know him than contacting him through a Ouija board. As time went on, the Ouija board became an obsession for Maria and her sister. For whatever reason, they could not stop playing with it. They just always felt the need to constantly be on the board. They soon realized that the person they had contacted was not her grandfather, that it was in fact a D word. They actually found out the name of this D word, which I'll put right here. Don't ever say this word out loud. Trust me. He is known as one of the most controlling D words in like Ouija board history. But back to the story. One night, Maria and her sister were playing with the board and they had a picture of her grandfather, like right next to them. When out of nowhere, Maria felt a hand on her back. She quickly got excited and said, "We did it, we finally contacted Grandpa," not realizing that it was actually putting his hand on her back. Later that night, after Maria went to bed, she got woken up by this D word jumping on top of her and trying to like choke her. She woke up sweating and crying. She went and woke her sister up and her sister did her best to try to calm her down. The very next day, Maria went to her grandmother's house and took the homemade Ouija board with her. As soon as she got to her grandmother's house, she dug a hole in the backyard and buried the Ouija board, hoping that that would be the end of it. But she was wrong. 1 week after she did this, her parents came home crying, telling her that the grandmother had passed away in her sleep due to a Maria was stunned when she heard the news and blamed herself because had she not wanted to contact her grandfather, none of this would have happened. They ended up laying her grandmother to rest and did not perform an autopsy due to the fact that she was already of age. I mean, she was 88 years old. Regardless of this, Maria states that her grandmother was extremely healthy for her age. After the funeral, Maria tried to kind of put it in the back of her head until she went to her grandmother's room and found the Ouija board she had buried in the backyard under her grandmother's bed.
Yeah, this is why I do not mess around with Ouija boards. I'm pretty sure one of the videos I posted already, it was showing a guy with a tatted Ouija board on his chest. I was like, what are you doing?
This video might be proof that reptilians do live among us.
Forces and protecting the population and minimizing civilian casualties have long been a cornerstone of the counterinsurgency doctrine. Civilian casualties have long been a cornerstone of the counterinsurgency doctrine.
She straight up just shapeshifted on live TV, folks! Maybe the lady on the plane was being real. If you want more video proof, then check out this video on my YouTube channel, link in bio.
Alright, I think it's time to stop this little, oh my god, they changed the eye shapes. They're definitely a demon. Like can we not? I don't know, like every time I feel like I've seen something where it's just like, oh, their eyes flutter or some eye glitch happens, everyone's like, oh my god, they're reptilian.
Have you ever wondered how accurate police sketches are? Well, this sketch was actually pulled from someone's subconscious during hypnotherapy, so let's find out. In 1960, 4 teens were camping in Finland, and the last thing that this guy remembers was falling asleep. When he woke up, he was in the hospital, and he learned that he and his friends were attached through the tent and that none of his friends had survived. The only thing was that teen, Nils Gustafsson, didn't remember a thing after falling asleep that night. And honestly, that caused a lot of people to think he was responsible for his friends' deaths. So Nils goes to hypnotherapy to see if he can recall anything from that night, and during hypnosis, he starts remembering a face. This is what he described to the hypnotherapist as the person who attacked him and his friends that night. And while this is happening, this man gets admitted to the hospital. He has splotches of red all over his clothes, and the nurses said it looked like he had been running through the woods. And I'm sure you probably see it, but this caused him to be the lead suspect. I cover the whole story this week on the podcast, which has so many twists and turns, including what this guy has to do with the story, so make sure you check it out.
I'm not gonna lie, police sketches are very accurate. Like, it's really crazy how good they could draw faces just off descriptions. That's actually a very good skill, I'm not gonna lie. Imagine if you could just draw someone's face based off of me being like, well, he had like this thing on his chin, it was just like really curved, I don't even know what it is, and you just perfectly
Detectives said they have never seen anything like this case. When Charles and Catherine Romer, a very wealthy couple from New York, checked into a Holiday Inn in Brunswick, Georgia in April 1980, everything was per usual. The couple had just spent their winter in Miami, Florida, as they did every year, and were on their way home to New York. Charles and Catherine had made this trip dozens of times. Typically, they would break up the long drive into about 4 days, stopping along the way. The couple always stuck to a routine, staying at this very same hotel every single trip back home. But this time, things would take a very dark turn. After checking into that hotel room in Georgia, the couple disappeared. They vanished, along with their car, a customized 1978 Lincoln Continental. Even worse, No one realized they were missing for days. By the time they did, no one had seen or heard from the roamers since they had checked into the hotel. Despite launching the largest search in the history of southern Georgia, not a single trace of the couple could be found. Detectives and the family theorized they'd been victims of a robbery gone wrong, a random crime, or had been followed by someone that they knew. Charles was a wealthy oil executive. Was this connected to his work? Possibly. But many of the clues and much of the evidence from the case directly contradicts this theory, as there was over $500,000 worth of Catherine's jewelry left untouched inside the hotel room. This case is one that has left authorities completely baffled for years, and is truly one of the most haunting and perplexing disappearances. What happened to the roamers after they checked into that hotel room? How do not one but two people disappear off the face of the planet? And are the nearby murders of another wealthy oil executive and his wife somehow connected to the roamers' disappearance? Or just a strange coincidence? This is Avery After Dark, and I'm your host, Avery Ross.
So I have another brujeria story time. This one has to do with an evil grandmother. The person who submitted this wants to remain anonymous. For the sake of the story, let's call her Mary. So growing up, Mary's grandmother was an evil woman. Mary never really considered her grandmother. Her dad used to work really hard and would give his mom, the grandmother, most of his paycheck. He would only end up with a little bit left for him. Once he met Mary's mom, that stopped because he now had a family to provide for. The evil grandmother obviously did not like this, and from that point forward, she would treat Mary's mom, Mary, and her siblings like crap. At the age of 52, Mary's father became ill. Due to his illness, he spent a really long time at the hospital. It got to the point that when Mary went to visit him, he didn't even recognize his own daughter. A short time later, her dad ended up actually passing away. Just when they're in the process of grieving the loss of her father, the evil witch grandmother calls Mary's mom and tells her that she needs to give her everything. The house, the cars, whatever money was left over. Mary's mother pretty much told her to F off, but the witch grandmother insisted that before he had passed, he had signed something stating that all his property and belongings would go to them in the event that he passed away. There's no way none of that is true, because by the time Mary's father passed away, he was no longer coherent, let alone even able to sign any papers or give anything away. Now fast forward to Mary's mom passing away. Once Mary's mom passed away, Mary ended up inheriting the home and everything else. This home was located in the middle of nowhere. Mary decided that she was just gonna clean it up and sell it and kind of move on with her life. I'm home now. So one Saturday, Mary was busy at the home packing it up, moving all of the things into her new home. As it started to get late, she had made her last trip to the moving truck and decided to call it a night. At about 9 p.m., she laid in bed when she realized that she had forgotten her charger that was inside of her car, parked right in front of the house near the locked gate. As she's making her way towards her car, about to step off the porch, she hears this loud screaming, screeching sound, so loud that it sounded like a half woman, half bird. Mary quickly turned around expecting to see like a humanoid looking thing standing there, but there was no one. She said it sounded like the screaming from the old woman in the movie called Drag Me to Hell. Mary was so scared that she started to walk backwards towards her car, trying to scan the whole area, making sure that she wasn't going crazy. But the fear, the utter fear, and then trembling and just chills that she couldn't explain were overcoming her whole body. She ended up locking herself in her car and just staying there trying to rationalize what just happened. After talking to her sister about it, they came to the conclusion that that was her witch grandmother, angry because she never got what she wanted.
I feel like it's a little bit childish on the grandmother's part. Like, come on, bro. You didn't get what you want. She did all that. Come on.
So Woodrow was driving his Ford truck on I-77 from Marietta, Ohio, heading to his home in Mineral Well, West Virginia. Woodrow was just your average person. He was a sewing machine salesman. He was leaving work and just heading home to relax, eventually coming to a complete stop. He was about 8 to 10 feet from the ship. He's on the highway by himself in the middle of the night. Poof. A door opens from the ship. He described this figure looking like a man, so the humanoid introduced himself as Ingrid Colt. I think that's he pronounced it. He described himself as a searcher. Searcher for what? A person, a thing, a planet?
Hillary Clinton is one of the most disgusting human beings on the planet.
Very much so.
Always has been, always will be. I want to show who she is.
She's worse than her husband.
So a lot of people say that this was triggered by a YouTube video. This is her statement. I condemn in the strongest terms the attack on our mission in Benghazi today. The United States deplores any intentional effort to denigrate the religious beliefs of others. Our commitment to religious tolerance goes back to the very beginning of our nation. But let me be clear, there's never any justification for violence acts of this kind. So she's making an apology.
Yeah.
She's taken the side.
Oh, yeah?
This is the first time since 1979 that a U.S. ambassador was killed in the line of duty. The Benghazi attack had wide political consequences, accusing the Obama administration of intentionally misleading the public and stonewalling congressional investigators. Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State at the time, for not doing enough to protect the diplomatic compound. And that's been an ongoing, thing ever since.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of politicians just be getting hated on. I mean, I wouldn't even say hated on, because if you don't fulfill the role that you're supposed to do, I can see how a lot of people could turn on you and be like, nah, get this guy out of here. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, please get this to 500 likes. I know it says 80% of you guys aren't subscribed, so remember to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, you can also apply for that 10% discount on the chains down in the description. So like the video, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Catch y'all in the next one.